So everybody knows they could feel better, feel healthier. And I'm one of those people. I've strived. I've tried lots of different diets. I did paleo. I did gluten-free. I did Movember. And for me, it's always been about, I know I could do better for myself. So this is mid-90s, living in Florida. And I head to the office, and this woman, Barb, walks in, and she takes out this bottle of sort of brown liquid and puts it down. It's in like a clear plastic, water bottle. And I was like, Barb, what is that? And she looks at me with this look of energy and enlightenment, and she says, that there, that's kombucha. Barb was from the South. And she regales me with this story like Gollum would if he asked him about the precious, right? So this is kombucha. Now, you can't buy it. This was the mid-90s. You got to make it yourself, but you got to be careful because you could screw it up, and you won't know if you did, and it'll kill you. But all you need is some basic ingredients, some tea and a glass pitcher, and you can make it yourself. Oh, and you need a kombucha itself, and it's pretty much free. And I was like, that's really cool. Can I have a taste? And she's like, sure. So she hands me the bottle, and I take a look, and it's like this cloudy thing. It's like if Tim Burton would brew tea, it looked like that. And then, I unscrew the cap, and I took a smell. Kind of like a fungal infection. If not that I would know, but. And then I took a sip. And just the taste, if you haven't tried like real kombucha, the way I would describe it is apple cider vinegar ass. I mean, it is awful. It made me shudder. But I'm like, anything that smells that bad, looks that dangerous, and tastes that awful, it must be good for you. And I'm like, Barb, I'm in. She's like, okay, great, I'll bring you some. And so I did a little research, and what kombucha is, it's a 2,000-year-old thing that the Chinese developed. It's actually called a SCOBY, a symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeast. It's really weird. And what it does is it feeds off of the tea, and it actually replicates itself. So if you make it, you start with one, and when you make a batch, you get two. Like, that's just weird. Right? I mean, it is. So she comes in a week later. She comes in with this plastic bag with the SCOBY and some tea. And she gives me the instructions on how to do it. And I go home to my wife, and I'm like, look at this, like it's a puppy. And she's like, what the heck is it? It looks like a sci-fi B-movie prop. It's like gelatinous and bubbly and nasty looking. And it looks horrible. And it smells awful. And she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to make this tea. I'm going to feel great. And she's like, all right, whatever. Because, she knows me. I've done this kind of stuff before. And so I brewed a batch, my first batch, and you have to brew it you have to put it in glass because it'll leach out of the chemicals if you put it in plastic or metal. And so you put your SCOBY on top of the tea, and then you cover it with some like cheesecloth or a t-shirt, and you put it away for 2 weeks. Really. That's like, it reminded me when I was a kid, I used to make these things called concoctions in the kitchen. I don't know, maybe other people did them. You just mix it, you put the stuff in there, and it has to sit out overnight to cure, right? It's just like that. So 2 weeks later, take my tea, pour it into a glass like carafe because it can't be held in anything else, and I take my first sip. And what I realized was Barb had cut hers with water because the uncut kombucha is way worse than the other thing I tried before. And it was just horrible. But I cut it, I started drinking it, and after like a month, I am feeling great. And actually what's in kombucha now, I've understood, is like probiotics, right? So it's essentially the same idea. So I'm doing this for a month. It is a strain in my relationship, but I'm feeling great. So you have to, choose your priorities. And so we were living in Florida at the time. We always had friends coming over, and they'd come over and they'd stay with us and party because they'd either stay with us or with their grandparents, and we were way cooler. So they'd come over, and we'd always party. And so Stephanie, one of her best friends, my best friend from college, comes over, and we go out particularly hard. And she gets up the next morning, and she is parched. And she's hungover, and she is dry mouthed, and she just feels awful. And she walks over to the fridge, and she just opens it up, and she sees this beautiful glass pitcher of tea. She pours herself a nice glass, takes a big old swig, and then comes the spray, and then comes the purge, and then comes the ultimatum. tea or me? So I thought about it, and I chose her. 20 years later, we're getting divorced. And I'm going to brew me some kombucha.